All right, all brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. And we face the east because we are on the other side of Jerusalem. We are westward of Jerusalem, so we pray towards Jerusalem. We don't pray towards the sun. When Daniel was in Babylon, he was eastward of Jerusalem, so he would have had to pray towards the west. So we're not worshiping the sun, we're praying towards Jerusalem according to the scriptures, that if we shall remember our forefathers and remember the faults in our ways and repent and face towards the holy temple, then our prayers will be heard. Our Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yasharal, we thank you so much, Yahweh, for your mercy, for your patience and your endurance with us, Yahweh, for bringing us into another third day, Yahweh, and for allowing us a means to come together, Yahweh, to study your word, Yahweh, away from your Shabbat, away from your commanded day, but a free will day, Yahweh, to come together to rightly divide your scriptures, Yahweh, to seek and find that narrow path, Yahweh, so that we may stay on task, Yahweh, and not falter to the old man, but Yahweh, learn to become that new spirit, Yahweh, in this grace period, Yahweh, so we could be citizens of your kingdom, Yahweh, and heirs to your throne that you have left for us as your inheritance, Yahweh. Yahweh, we ask that you allow your spirit of understanding, Yahweh, and your spirit of truth, your Ruach HaKodesh, Yahweh, to reside with us and the viewers and the listeners, Yahweh, so that we may take this light, Yahweh, not only during the class, but when we go out amongst the darkness, Yahweh, and be that little sliver of light, Yahweh, so that all your servants that need to be sealed, all your children that are lost, all yours that are prisoners of this world, Yahweh, may see the light and know which direction to go, Yahweh. Yah, we ask that you please forgive us of our sins and trespasses, Yahweh, and continue to chasten us, Yahweh, not in your sore displeasure, but in your tender love and mercy, Yahweh, for we understand that as children, Yahweh, we must be chastened, Yahweh. If you do not chasten us, then we are like bastards, Yahweh. So we invite that, Yahweh. We use our free will to acknowledge that we do accept your chastening, Yahweh. We ask that you open our eyes so that we may quickly see the error in our ways, so that we may stop suffering for the things that we should not be suffering for. Yeah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we thank you and we pray, not only for us, but for all your children across the four corners of the earth, Yahweh, that freely show you your sign of obedience, Yahweh. These things we thank and pray through Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.
All right, you go ahead and start. You ready? Whenever you're ready, you go ahead and intro. Start.
All right, shalom, shalom. You're watching Israelites Gathering Yom Shalishi Bible Study. I'm Jonathan Yasharal. I'm here with my brother Yedan Yasharal.
Shalom.
We had a wonderful invocation just a while ago. I definitely feel like the Spirit is residing with us for that.
Praise Yah.
Invite the Spirit to dwell with us, and part of that invocation has to do with inviting that Spirit of peace to reside with us. You know, we're entreating the Spirit of Yah. We're entreating Yah. We're entreating our Creator to come and dwell with us. And where Yah is, it's supposed to be peace. It's supposed to be safety. And it's supposed to be a change in the inward man. And it's supposed to allow us to minister and be strengthened and allow and cause peace to reside on anywhere we go and the things that we touch. So today's study is called Warriors of Peace. Warriors of Peace. And when you think about peace, brother, what comes to your mind? Just a broad spectrum.
First thing that comes to my mind is commandments. You know, when we are allowed to keep the commandments without interruption or intervention by the adversary or anybody that's allowing the adversary to use them.
Indeed. Yeah, that's perfect right there, because we realize wherever the people of Yah are keeping their commandments, he blesses them with peace. But as we read through these scriptures, we come to realize as well that whenever the people are not keeping the commandments of Yah, he removes peace from them. He doesn't allow peace to go with them. And he's not going to reward ways of iniquity with peace.
Right.
You know, he's going to disturb, rustle some feathers and things of that nature. So one thing we have to realize, you know, especially in a age such as this, where we're being told all kinds of wrong things, you know, people want to know what's wrong. Why can't we have homosexuality, you know, gay marriage and all these things? Let people love who they want to love. And they don't understand that these things are a transgression against the order that Yah has set for us. Right. The order that he pre-established for us to maintain peace on the earth. Right. And because we esteemed marriage so lightly, we don't do the things to protect it. For the men to act like men, the women to administer like women, so that the be fruitful and multiply becomes a commandment that we don't have a problem adhering to. But if these men sleep with men and women sleep with women, that's like one of the main disruptions in the nature of humanity right now. Right. You know, one of the ones we can see easily, like, y'all want to do this and you want to frame it with the law. You're going to frame iniquity with laws and things like that. So these people have done everything they can to remove the peace of Yah from them. And what you see is a manifestation of destruction. And what the word for peace in Hebrew is shalom. Shalom. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the letters in the Hebrew scriptures, shalom is spelled shin, lamed, I believe it's a wa, and a mem. And I know the shin means to destroy. Mm-hmm. The el means lead, like a staff. Mm-hmm. The uah means to secure something. And the mem means either water or chaos. Mm-hmm. So even in the Hebrew letters, the word shalom means to destroy the teachings that establish chaos. Right. So in order to have peace, we have to remove the things that are bringing chaos to us. So that means rebuking your neighbor when he does what's wrong, because he's inviting that spirit of evil. Right. But like that prayer that you had a while ago, that invocation you had a while ago, it invited a spirit of peace. And now what's on us is we have to know, how do we maintain that peace that comes to reside with us? Do we know what it takes? Because a lot of people, their mentalities cause them to reap disruption in their lives. You know, you can establish them, you know, and lead someone to understand, look, this is the way you keep peace. But their meditation can only, for some reason, create destruction, and they don't know why is it. Or maybe it's the jealousy you like to entertain. Right. Maybe it's the envy you like to do. Maybe it's the wicked thoughts. And we're going to go into that right now. So let's turn to 2 Chronicles chapter 15. And we're going to get a historical account of how Yah allows peace to reside with the children of Israel when they seek him, but takes it away when they're not seeking him. Right.
What's the Hebrew for Chronicles again?
The Hebrew for Chronicles,
always forget that one,
is it says Divri Hayamim.
Right, Divri Hayamim.
In the events of days, Divri Hayamim. Second Chronicles chapter 15, and we'll read the whole chapter.
All right. Divri Hayamim 15, 2 Chronicles chapter 15, and we're going to start at verse 1. And the spirit of Elohim came upon Azariah, the son of Oded, and he went out to meet Asa, and said unto him, Hear you me, Asa, and all Yehuda and Benjamin. Yahweh is with you, while you be with him. And if you seek him, he will be found of you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you.
All right. So if we get some background on what's happening here, Asa is a king in Yehuda of the lineage of Dawid, that's reigning right now, and he's part of that lineage, whereas, you know, they had a righteous leader here, and then they had a wicked leader here, and right. it's always alternating between somebody's doing something righteous, somebody doing something wicked, or one that does a little bit of wickedness and he ends in unrighteousness. I mean, one that does a little bit of righteousness and he ends in full wickedness, or one that does righteousness for the whole of his life and then at the end he messes up. But it's always like iniquity always finds a way to stay in, because these people are not going the whole way to make sure that shalom is residing with them, right? Where they destroy the teachings that establish chaos. So they not put. So Asa, if you look in Chronicles chapter 14, when he reigns, he destroys the idol
Again, right.
altars, all the high places that were devoted to other gods and things of that nature, and he's destroying some of the teachings and the altars that are establishing chaos. And what happens is Yah is giving him peace. And in chapter 15, a prophet is actually sent to him to speak to him and to strengthen him. And you know that usually anytime Yah either rebukes a king or speaks to a king, either way they're hearing from Yah, and there's a blessing in that,
right,
rather than to just not be dealt with and you're just a complete bastard. Like you had mentioned earlier, you're not being
right,
chastised nor corrected. Yah doesn't care about you at all.
Right.
But here Yah is saying to them, he says, the prophet says, Yahweh is with you while you be with him. Because what Asa was doing was he was admonishing all of Israel to seek Yah, keep seeking Yah. He's with you. He's keeping peace. He's not, you guys aren't in any war anymore. And he's here. Yah has sent a prophet as confirmation that you're actually doing the right thing.
It's trying to reconnect.
What's trying to reconnect?
Oh,
Okay. Go ahead and hit the
red button.
what does it say?
It says finished. Finish.
Hit post.
You don't have post.
Oh, it hasn't finished yet.
Okay, let me check it.
All right, so we had some technical difficulties with the first stream. Just picking up, this is our Warriors of Peace, our Yom Shalishi Bible study. We're in 2 Chronicles chapter 15. We're going over a prophet that comes to Asa and gives him confirmation of his good works and admonishes him to continue doing those things. So we're at 2 Chronicles chapter 15, and we're continuing at verse 3.
Now for a long season Yasharal had been without the true Elohim, and without a teaching priest, and without law. But when they in their trouble did turn unto Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal, and sought him, he was found of them. And in those times there was no peace to him that went out, nor to him that came in, but great vexations were upon all the inhabitants of the countries.
All right, so let's recap what we just read. So verse 3 said, for a long season they have been without the true Elohim. For a long season Yasharal had been without the true Elohim. So they weren't seeking Yah in his fullness, and this caused them to not have his favor. So maybe the people were walking in idols, but the true Elohim was not there to establish peace. So it goes on to say that one of the reasons is that there wasn't a teaching priest. So they were without the true Elohim and without a teaching priest and without law. So all these things were causing them to dwell in reprobation. These things were removing the peace from them. And this is the basic element of humanity not being able to walk with Yah, because they're not seeking Yah through his law. They're not doing the things to confirm that Yah, I'm with you. I want to do the things that establish peace in my dwelling. This ministry is all about the establishment of peace. And if the peace is threatened, it means it's time to go to war about it. There's going to be action to remove these things that are stopping us from dwelling in harmony with our Elohim and with the rest of creation. So in verse 4, it says, in their trouble they did turn to Yahweh and sought him, and he was found of them. So Yah was doing this on purpose, like teaching them a lesson, like, okay, follow me. Then they digress. He allows all the destructions to creep in to show them that, look, every time you deviate from me, your hedge is gone.
Right.
And all the power is not in your hand to defend yourself. I'm your defender. Right. So if you want this peace to follow you, you have to do it by these commandments. So then they realize, you know what? Our own peace is out of our hands. We have to get it from our Creator. Then they seek him, and he reestablishes peace among them. But it's saying that for a long time, there was no peace to him that went out or came in. But great vexations, this is verse 5, great vexations were on all the inhabitants of the countries. And this is definitely because they weren't seeking Yah.
Right.
And the king, they finally just got a righteous king, and he's actually allowing the spirit of Yah to dwell back with him.
Verse 6. And nation was destroyed of nation, and city of city. For Elohim did vex them with all adversity. Be you strong, therefore, and let not your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. And when Asa heard these words and the prophecy of Oded the prophet, he took courage and put away the abominable idols out of all the land of Yehuda and Benjamin, and out of the cities which he had taken from Mount Ephraim, and renewed the altar of Yahweh that was before the porch of Yahweh.
All right, so verse 8 says, he took courage and put away the abominable idols. So he started to remove the teachings that established chaos. Idolatry and following the customs of the other nations and worshiping other gods is adultery against your creator. It's against the first commandment that says you shall have no other Elohim before me. So if you're going to turn away from the teachings that establish peace to go seek the things that establish chaos, if you want that peace back, you have to destroy the things that are establishing chaos. So this is what all the destroying of the altars were about. It totally remove their idols from out the land.
Right. And if you notice, brother, too, he's talking about Yehuda, Benjamin, and some of the cities that he took from Mount Ephraim. At this time, northern Israel and southern Israel split because of after Shlomo. But in doing this, what he did first is he started with his own house. Started with his own house, cleaned up his own house and anything that appertained to his responsibility. But what we like to do is we want to always start elsewhere. Start with somebody else and talk about what somebody else is doing and point fingers at everybody else instead of dealing with keeping the peace within. Indeed. Keeping the commandments within, dealing with our own household, in our own city, in our own area, and then move outward.
I agree. And the basic essence about what you said there is that you can't give to someone something that you don't have yourself.
Exactly.
Even on your computer, you can't paste something that you didn't first copy first. So if you're going to paste your name somewhere else, you got to first type your name on your own screen, highlight it, copy it, then paste it. So once you've gotten the understanding of peace within yourself, the conquering of self, the removing of all the things that establish chaos within yourself, all the hatred and the envies, and learn to administer love, learn to administer care, and understand what does the Spirit want from me. Right. And you submit to that. Then once you understand what it took to gain mastery over self, which is a lifelong process, what you can do is you can copy and paste your progress. Right. You know, look, I've gotten this far so far. I'm still working on certain things, but so far, this is what has helped me. And you're able to administer that to the rest of the people around you. Then you all can help one another and bear more fruit because now you have extra help. Right. And you can all be second witnesses to one another and say, all right, look, I can do this and I can grow in this regard and this respect.
2 Chronicles chapter 15 and verse 9. And he gathered all Yehuda, Benjamin, and the strangers with them out of Ephraim and Manasseh, and out of Shimeon, for they fell to him out of Yasharal in abundance, when they saw that Yahweh his Elohim was with him. So they gathered themselves together at Jerusalem in the 3rd month, in the 15th year of the reign of Asa. And they offered unto Yahweh the same time of the spoil which they had brought, 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. And they entered into a covenant to seek Yahweh Elohim of their fathers with all their heart and with all their soul. Now, it doesn't say when in the 3rd month.
But that's Pentecost is around there.
And there's also a appearance. All males appear, where we make that confirmation of offering ourselves and reconfirming that covenant before the Most High.
Indeed, indeed. That's Shabuah, right?
Or Shabbat.
Shabbat.
Either one. Verse 13. That whosoever would not seek Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal should be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman.
All right, so what they're doing now is they realize, look, after going such a long season with no peace, Finally, Yah confirms him and says, look, I like what you're doing. This is what I've been trying to get all of Israel to do for like the last how many years now. This is why no nation has come upon you. This is why no nation has attacked you, because I like what you've done. You've removed all the false idols from the land and all those things of that nature. So,
Do you still have that fire stick on?
No. I'll check it again, don't they?
Yeah, maybe.
Check the TV.
You got to cut the fire stick off because it's still streaming. That's probably what's slowing it down.
oh, okay. So after going such a long time without Yah, now that he's with them, what Asa does is try his best to do the things that are going to establish more peace with them. So what he does, he enters into a covenant. And this is almost the same as a marriage. He enters into a promise with the Almighty that they will seek Yahweh with all their heart and with all their soul. Because he realized that this is our prosperity. Our prosperity is not in weapons. Our prosperity is not in offensive tactics and technology and things of that nature. Our prosperity is in the seeking of Yah.
Hold on a second, bro. Let me try.
See what you need there.
The bandwidth is getting stretched kind of thin.
It's screaming, so it's still pulling.
Give us a second while we get the Facebook stream a little more stable. Any questions so far? Any revelations?
All right, we're going to try again.
All right.
We are streaming on YouTube as well, so.
All right, shalom, shalom. This is Warriors of Peace. This is Israelites gathering Yom Shalishi Bible study. Having a little bit of technical difficulties with the Facebook stream, but we're just going to continue where we left off. We're in 2 Chronicles chapter 15 and verse 12. And just to recap, Asa, which is one of the kings of Yasharal, who began doing righteousness and reestablishing Israel in righteousness, a prophet is sent to him to continue doing his works and to keep seeking Yah. But he's also admonished that if you forsake Yah, he's going to forsake you as well. So he does all those things, and he establishes that, for a long season, Israel had no peace because there wasn't anyone teaching and the people weren't following the laws. But now that they have peace, they're trying to do everything they can to keep that peace and to make sure it resides with them permanently. And we went over the meaning of shalom and what it means, and when you break down those letters, which is the shin, lamed, wa, and the mem, which means to destroy the teachings that establish chaos. When you remove the teachings that establish chaos from around you, peace is allowed to reside. And once peace resides with you, you have to do all in your power to try and retain it. And that means that whenever your flesh rises up, you use your reason and you use your understanding of the law. That's why you sustain the law, because this law is your life. This law is your wisdom. And these are the things that help the peace to reside with you and already destroy the chaos that tries to seep in, because there is darkness in the world. But you're supposed to have that spiritual immune system to rebuke all those things that are trying to remove the peace from you. So we're in 2 Chronicles chapter 15, and we're going to continue at verse 13.
All right. I'll go back to verse 12. And they entered into a covenant to seek Yahweh Elohim of their fathers with all their heart and with all their soul, that whosoever would not seek Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal should be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. And they swear unto Yahweh with a loud voice, and with shouting, and with trumpets, and with cornets. And all Yehudah rejoiced at the oath, For they had sworn with all their heart and sought him with their whole desire. And he was found of them, and Yahweh gave them rest round about. And also concerning Maacah, the mother of Asa, the king, he removed her from being queen, because she had made an idol in a grove. And Asa cut down her idol, and stamped it, and burnt it in the brook Kidron. And this is clearly a conflict because this is his mother. And the commandment is to honor your father and your mother. But your highest commandment is to love Yahweh with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. So when it comes down to keeping the commandments, there's still an order of operations.
Indeed.
You respect everybody, especially your father and your mother. But when it comes down to disrespecting the Most High, it's got to be handled appropriately.
And with the title being Warriors of Peace, we will see how Asa went that extra mile to make sure that he established the teachings that established peace. So he destroyed the teaching that established chaos and did whatever he could to establish peace. So that meant that he had to abandon the love of mother and father for the sake of establishing peace. As warrior of peace, you do that. Right. You have to make those sacrifices, which is no sacrifice because peace is the paramount thing that you're trying to establish. Peace is the paramount thing that you're trying to defend.
Right. And that ties hand in hand with our class on love, because this is his loving his mother, because she's idol worshiping. If he just sits back there and says, oh, I want to just be peaceful with my mom, I'm not going to say nothing, I'm just going to sit back, it will still cause his mother to continue in this transgression. But by him saying, no, I'm not going to accept this, I'm not going to allow that, I'm going to remove this idol out of your life as far as what I can control, that's showing your mother love. Now, you can't remove the idol out of her heart, but you can take that thing away, and then maybe the spirit of understanding may come to her at a later date.
Indeed, indeed.
Two things. One is...
Go ahead, brother.
Let's try to reconnect with her.
And one thing I wanted to add to that, Yeshua had made a statement on that. He said, who is my mother and my brother and my sister? He knows who his father is. So, but he's trying to state that he gives his father honor and the rest of his family honor if they want to follow his father. Because his family, as you just mentioned, he's supposed to honor his mother and his father. Well, and then honoring his father, he can't honor you. And that's the statement he's trying to make. So he says, all the ones who wants to honor my father, that's my family. So he takes Yahweh's business first and foremost, handles that business. Then you come after. If you don't want to follow Yahweh, then you're not part of the family. And that's just where it is. Maybe later Yahweh will enter into the family, if that be his mighty will. But back in the day, and just that statement they made just now, when you just read over it, that you have to commit yourself. And they gave you a chance to commit yourself. But once you opened your mouth and made a commitment unto the Father in front of representatives and witnesses and everything else, you made a statement that your mouth better continue to hold. Because if your mouth don't hold it and your butt can't handle it, then you're going to get cashed out.
Can't cash that check.
That's right. You're going to cash that check. You're going to get cashed out. So, and that day you got destroyed. So today is what you have to be concerned about, is because people don't automatically get handled, once they break Yahweh's law. But they don't realize that Yahweh has a long memory. He don't forget nothing. And he gives you chances. He gives us chances to change that, to repent, to see the error of our ways, so he can take care of his children. But his will stand. And that's what we want to realize. His will stand in the end.
Indeed. Right. Indeed. And the thing that Asa gained in all of this, first thing that stood out is that he made that covenant, and you want to defend that covenant. That's your virtue. That's what's giving you life. That's like your life, but that's the living waters flowing to you constantly. So you make that covenant, you do all that you can to establish that. And you see here in the last verse, and there was no more war until the 5 and 13th year of the reign of Asa. And in verse 15, it says, and all Yehuda rejoiced at the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart and sought him with their whole desire, and he was found of them, and Yahweh gave them rest round about. So in getting that peace, they also received rest.
Okay, extremely fun.
So we're going to go to Proverbs chapter 14. And we're going to look a little bit more into, if they did have a teaching priest, what would that teaching priest been telling them?
Right.
What kind of teachings would they be receiving? And, you know, Proverbs, all the Proverbs might not have been what they were teaching, but it's of that same spirit.
Right. Right. And we're good on the stream.
All right.
So we're at Mishlei, Proverbs, chapter 4 or 14?
14.
Okay.
Proverbs chapter 14.
Mishlei, Proverbs, chapter 14. Mishlei, Proverbs, chapter 14 and verse 1. Every wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pluck it down with her hands. He that walks in his uprightness fears Yahweh, but he that is perverse in his ways despises him. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of an ox. A faithful witness will not lie, but a false witness will utter lies. A scorner seeks wisdom and finds it not, but knowledge is easy unto him that understands. Go from the presence of a foolish man when you perceive not in him the lips of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit.
All right. So in these first 8 lines, we see that there's a differentiation that's going to be made between those who behave wisely and those who behave foolishly, those who entertain knowledge and those who entertain perversity. And we want to look at what the Hebrew word is for perverse. It's in verse 2. It says, he that walks in his uprightness fears Yahweh, but he that is perverse in his ways despises him. And the word for perverse is lose. That's H3868, lose. And it means to depart, to turn aside, to go wrong, to go crooked, to become devious, froward, or perverse. Perverse lips. And from perversity comes all those other things that deviate from the things that establish peace.
Right.
So one of the things, and this should go in everyone's notes, about what are one of the main things that destroy peace? Perversity. And perversity implies going off from the path or walking away from the path. But in order for us to be perverse from a path, that means that a pre-established route has to have been established. And that's the law of Yah. So if you're in perversity, that means that you're going crooked from the ways of Yah. Right. You're walking into destruction, because it says narrow is the way and straight is the path that leads to righteousness, and few find it.
Right.
So if you're going to utter perversities and entertain perversities in your heart, and there's different ways you can entertain perversity, and as you read the scriptures, you'll understand better what is the fullness of perversity and the things that are leading us away from the path of Yah. So one of those things are the mouth of the foolish, the lips of the foolish, the scorner that seeks wisdom that can't find it, going away from the presence of the foolish man because in his lips there's no knowledge. That's out of verse 7. So we'll continue and pick back up at verse 8 as we read, pick out the things that are perverse, that are leading a man's heart into ways that are destruction, and do your best to stay away from those things. So stay away from the foolish tongue. Right. Stay away from the speech of the foolish. Stay away from those who, when they speak, you know you can't perceive any knowledge. Certain music, certain people that you're around. When you hear these people talking folly, just go away from it, because you don't want their destruction to enter your soul. You have to remove the teachings that establish chaos. So if these people are talking about things that do not establish peace, talking about, oh, I don't like this person, and all they talk about is slanders and other people's business, you cannot allow your soul to entertain those things. You don't know what's going to take root and what's going to be that accursed idol, that accursed thing that's going to rest with you. And then when the destruction starts happening, you don't even know where to look. It starts with these little itty bitty teachings from Yah that build up the whole house.
Right. And I thought that was a very profound point in looking at loose, the Hebrew word. and understanding that, who the shepherd is, with Yahshua being the good shepherd and with us being the sheep have limited vision. And now when you have one of the sheep that decides, well, I'm going to go crooked, I'm going to stray off the path, I'm going to go, aside, then it's going to cause other sheep to also go that direction, or actually trying to follow the right direction, but just by nature head the wrong direction. So within our lives, we got to make sure that even in saying that, well, I'm not going to go that direction, but I'm just going to, pay attention and keep that around me. When you ride in a motorcycle or you drive in a car and you hitting that curve, if you look at that curve, that's where you're going. You going where you look. So if you looking, you coming around, you supposed to curve this way, you supposed to look yourself around the curve. If you look at the wall, you head in that direction. So naturally, if you are watching people being crooked and you're not saying nothing, it's entertainment to you, before you know it, you find yourself in the same place where they at.
Exactly. Brother, like you brought that up. Look at the motorcycle. A lot of us, not all of us have been on a motorcycle, but we've been on a bike. And you know that if you have any extra weight, if somebody's sitting on the seat and you're riding, or somebody's sitting on the handlebars and you're riding, you all have to be in one accord. So whenever you look at someone and you're assessing their ways, that's a weight that you have on you. So either you're going to depart from it, so you don't have to have that on your mind, or you're going to keep looking on it. It's going to be like a weight on your bike that you're riding. So imagine if you turn in and somebody's on the handlebars and they flinging themselves the whole way, it can shipwreck you. Right. So if you're leaning one way and the person on the back ain't leaning with you, you're not going to turn right because your mind space is entertaining something else. Right. And if you look at your mind, look at it as a computer. And we all understand computer. Our generation is computer literate. So if you have certain amount of gigabytes and you have all these extra programs that's running that's not what you want. Say you want to run Microsoft Word, but you got YouTube open and you got AOL open and you got all these other things open. All that memory is not going to be devoted to making sure that your Microsoft Word is acting right. Bandwidth, memory, any access virtual memory, it's going to be at 100%, but you realize it's going to be full with a lot of junk. So what you want to do is you want to start throwing off all those extra weights. If people ain't acting right, you can't look at it as I'm gonna just let them be all the time. Sometimes there is a point where you have to rebuke and say, "Look, that's not good," because that actually helps your spirit, and how you categorize things properly. When this is done, this is iniquity. This is never right. You're taking a stance and you put it in a proper category so that your judgment isn't perverted. Anytime I see this, it's always wrong, and I gotta stay on that path. Go ahead, Brother Michael.
I'm glad you said that, because there's a couple of statements of scripture that I'm gonna bring up that even King Dawid said. I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle, while the wicked is before me. And he goes on, but if you go back in Yaakov, he also get into this also. And what he says is, there's a passage here, he talks about, in 3:2, for in many things we offend all. If any man offends not with words, the same is a perfect man, and able to also bridle the whole body. And he said, behold, we put bits in the horse's mouth, that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Same also goes to the ship. Behold, also the ship, but though they are so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet they are turned about with a very small helm, whatever so the governor listed. And they also get into the tongue as a very little member and boasts great things. Behold, how great is a matter, a little fire kindled. He goes on, but we also jump into chapter 5. But above all things, my brethren, swear not neither by heaven, neither by earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay, lest you fall into condemnation. And basically, you can look at it two different ways. We have to be careful which direction that we're going, because if we don't bridle our mouth or watch our actions, you might turn a person astray who is not strong enough in the word to see the error of your ways and can't correct you because they can't correct themselves. So you might have somebody else fall because you are not taking concern of what you're doing. You know, so the scripture goes deeper and deeper into our way of how we handle ourselves before our brethren and before Yah. So we're supposed to take account of each other, to help each other, to direct each other's ways. If we make a mistake, we make a mistake in error, you know, out of love, and we correct that thing. But we have to correct our brothers and sisters and make sure that we're going the right way so we don't deter anybody else from going the right direction, you know.
And one of the things I wanted to be sure of that I pointed out is that we never want to see something and say, okay, this is all right. No, if something is wrong, you got to make sure you categorize it in your mind. Like, this is an evil thing, because Yahweh is going to look and he's going to see it. And he'll put you in situations where you thought this was okay, and you realize this is something that removed peace from my life. And you have to put everything in its proper perspective, in its proper category. That this is wrong. That stuff you're doing is wrong. The way the society is being run is wrong. So that your judgment isn't perverted and your judgment isn't cast to the side, and you're actually somebody trustworthy when you speak. Right.
This is all.
Hey, that's fine. We'll just continue. I heard we got word that the YouTube is actually running perfectly. So as we continue, we did point out loose, which is the Hebrew word for perverse. And as we continue reading in Proverbs, look at the things that would be considered perverse. And for us to establish peace and be warriors of peace, one of the main things we have to do is remove the perversity from out of ourselves. And we have to be able to identify it. And in reading the word, we'll be able to identify it. And one of the main things when I was putting together this lesson, I realized that this is just a narrow sliver of how you can establish peace in your life.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot more layers to retaining peace and examples of people that retain peace. But this is just like basic guidelines of if you start from here, and that's the power of Yah. Even if you have just a little sliver of light, work from there, work from where you're at, right, and expand on it, and it'll help you grow.
Right, right. You can't control other people's actions, but you can control yours.
Indeed.
Proverbs, Mishlei, chapter 14 and verse 9. Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor. The heart knows his own bitterness, and a stranger does not intermeddle with his joy. The house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish.
All right, brother. So when you take into account all that we've read so far, and you read something like verse 11, and it says the house of the wicked shall be overthrown, why would their house be overthrown? First of all, who's overthrowing it? And why is it ended up overthrown? Why is that their fate?
Well, it's overthrown because it's the house of the wicked. It's transgression. You can't establish that. The Most High, if he allowed your house to be in wickedness, that's him co-signing the wickedness, saying, yeah, go ahead, continue being wicked.
And he's not like that. So as you said, it's Yah that's going to overthrow that house, because Yah is not going to establish wickedness. Yah is with those. He's trying to show his creation and show his people, as he's proving us in this outside before bringing us into his temple. He's going to show us that peace and all the ways of wisdom are profitable for his kingdom. But when people go being wayward, perverse, froward, and wicked, he's going to make examples out of them by what it says in verse 11, the house of the wicked being overthrown, as he establishes the tabernacle of the upright.
Verse 12. There's a way which seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself.
All right, that's a beautiful verse right there. The backslider is going to be filled with his own ways, and the good man will be satisfied of himself. So what's going on between these two people that they're going to, what do you feel that each of these two people are going to reap? What is the backslider going to reap?
Corruption.
He's going to reap corruption.
Reap exactly what he sowed.
He's going to reap what he sows. So in backsliding, we'll probably be able to look at that word in depth. But our general understanding of the backslider is someone who returns to the field that they were doing before. In order to backslide, it means that you came from corruption into somewhere of a righteous area and you're backtracking into some type of evil.
You have to loose.
So you're going to go loose. You're going to get perverse. You're going to turn aside and go back to the path that you were supposed to be coming off from. And it says, the backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways. So what will a backslider reap?
He's doing wicked acts. So the wicked acts are going to return right back to him.
And how does that usually manifest in life itself? Literally.
Literally, it's going to be lack of peace.
Lack of peace.
You're not going to have no peace. You're going to be at war.
So the backslider is going to lack peace. He's going to be in destruction. He's going to find himself at law. He's going to find himself in conflict. He's going to find himself in strifes. These are the things that are going to manifest for the backslider. Who can he blame for that, though?
Himself.
No, it says it right there. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways. So your life is going to reflect what's going on within. And then it says here that a good man shall be satisfied from himself. So yeah, is gonna do a mirror of whatever you're putting out. So if you're putting out the backslide corruption, you're gonna reap the corruption. But if you're putting out the good, and if you're making an effort to establish the peace, then Yah will bless you with those things. So that when the backslider looks upon the good man, he'll say, you know what, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. I gotta do whatever this person is doing so I can get that back to this peace that I had.
Proverbs 14 and verse 15. The simple believes every word, but the prudent man looks well to his going. A wise man fears and departs from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident.
The fool rages and is confident. That means he's going to continue in his folly. And the wise man will fear and realize, you know what I'm doing is wrong. Let me just turn back. So it doesn't mean that in his wisdom he did everything right. But one thing he did do is that he fears and departs from evil. So in order to depart from evil, it means that it was among you at some point. And then you say, you know what? Let me separate off and uncleave myself from this because it's wrong. His discernment was fine. He wants to remove the teachings that establish chaos and establish peace within his dwelling.
Verse 17. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is hated, even of his own neighbor, but the rich man has many friends. He that despises his neighbor sins, but he that has mercy on the poor, happy is he.
All right, so we're establishing righteousness and peace doing these things.
Do they not err that devise evil? But mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good.
All right, so as a warrior of peace, you're not going to devise evil because you're going to be in error. But at all times, you're going to use mercy and truth, and you're going to use that to devise the good among you. Mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good. So Yah will establish mercy. He'll forgive you for your wrongs, and he'll put you into the path of truth because you turned away from the perversity to produce good things from your own heart as a warrior of peace. And it's not always hard. That's why the word I put there is warrior. But it's not always easy. That's why the word I put there is warrior, because warriors fight. You have to fight to establish this peace in your life. It's hard because your carnal nature is at war with you. And you have to use the law and use your virtue to push these things out of you and take control over all these inclinations that are pulling your soul and your spirit in all these different directions. You have to get that fortitude. You have to meditate. You have to make a covenant with yourself that this is what I'm going for. I'm a warrior for this. I have my sword. I have my shield of faith, that it says in Ephesians 6. I have my shield of faith and the sword of truth, and my feet shod with the gospel, the good news of salvation. So I'm walking in these things. I'm protecting myself. I'm a warrior. This is a battle because there are many enemies that are going to try and destroy your peace, and you have to be vigilant in your pursuit of righteousness.
Right. I mean, Yahshua said, he who endures is fit for the kingdom.
Fit for the kingdom.
What are we enduring? If everything is easy and you just have peace and everybody just agrees with you, then you're not enduring anything. Verse 23. In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tends only to penury. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. A true witness delivers souls, but a deceitful witness speaks lies. And the fear of Yahweh is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. The fear of Yahweh is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. In the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the want of people is the destruction of the prince. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly.
All right, so that verse 29 actually mirrors verse 17. It says, he that is soon angry deals foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. So we can see that this anger is one of the offshoots of perversity. It's going to push you off your path. So as a warrior of peace, you need to make sure you're doing what verse 29 says. You want to be slow to wrath so that you can exercise great understanding. But being slow to wrath is a result of having great understanding. So you have to get your understanding up, and it'll cause you to be slow to wrath. But either way you approach this thing, you can know that your anger is a manifestation of chaos. And you have to have good sense. You have to have good moral understanding, wisdom, to control those lusts within your body that want to give heed to anger of the flesh and strifes, and use that warrior sense, as a warrior of peace. And as you're looking at in being a warrior of peace, a lot of times you read these scriptures, you have warriors that get bloodlust. They love the fight. They love the war. They love the sound of the shields and the clanging. They love the combat. But as a warrior of peace, what you're going to love is not necessarily bloodlust, but you're going to actually like the challenge of overcoming the wrongs that you have in yourself.
Right.
Over time, you realize, look, I can't be beating myself every time I mess up. I can't be beating myself up every time I mess up. I need to turn this into, you know what, I'm going to war. I messed up today. No problem with that. Tomorrow, I'm getting right back at it. As a warrior of peace, I'm going to go and do my best to establish peace within my personal kingdom. Right. So that as a warrior for Yah and as a servant of Yah, I can establish that same peace in different areas as a servant and turn others onto righteousness.
Right. And amongst warriors, there's a respect.
Indeed.
When you know somebody is a warrior, when you know somebody trains and is at battle, and in that will offer a certain level of mercy, like what we talked about in devising good. You know, you will have mercy. So if you understand that, man, every single day I'm at war. I'm fighting this battle before I even get out there. Then your brother, you know, loses temper or make a mistake. You should have that mercy. Say, hey, are you not going through the same thing?
Yeah.
But instead of being quick to wrath and anger, try to offer that example.
Yeah. And
say, listen, I recognize you a warrior. I know you're fighting with the same thing I'm fighting with. And I have done the same thing you did.
Indeed.
But bro, this is not the right way to handle things.
It's not. You know, as a warrior of peace, Aki, this should be the bread and butter. You know, and we realize it's hard. If I'm a warrior carnally, I'm not going to go home and do the thing that's going to make me get soft.
Right.
You know, I'm a warrior. I need to make sure I'm training. I'm not going to go home and the whole time all I'm doing is having sex.
Right.
Or the whole time it tells you stay away from your wives. Prepare yourself to the third day. This is scripturally. This is according to the law. Come not at your wives. But this thing, you know, you have yourself unclean and then you're excessively comfortable. Nah, when it's wartime,
right,
I need to be in a time in a zone. You know, I need to.
Uriah wouldn't even go home.
He wouldn't even go home. Like, nah, I'm among my brothers.
This is a Hittite.
He even got drunk and wouldn't go home. Still, like it was just in his mind. I'm a warrior for Yasharal. This is a righteous nation. Yah is with them. You understand? And he had that zeal with him. So that same way that the warrior comes home and he creates a whole atmosphere that tends to his warrior spirit. If you're a warrior of peace, you need to make sure you come home and you create the atmosphere that tends to your whole warrior, that tends to your whole spirit of peace. So the things that show up on TV, you know, these things invade our lives and we think it's okay. Shut the TV off. Put on some music that actually has some peace in it. Sometimes you don't even need words. Put on an instrumental that you can put your own meditations over it. These are real things. Light an incense. You know, read Psalms. These things get your soul in the area so that if you get caught slipping, so to speak, your reaction is not wrath because you spent your whole day in a wrathful, stressful environment. But if you practicing and you're setting up an environment where it's like you're so, you know how when you soak an egg in vinegar, it soaks up that scent. But soak yourself up in righteousness. Make sure you're soaking up elixirs of peace, so that you take that egg or yourself out of the atmosphere. All you're going to be able to reflect is that righteousness and that peace. And no matter what comes against you, you reach a certain level as a warrior of peace. Little stuff can't draw you out anymore like it used to. Like, no, come on, you gotta try harder than that. It's gonna take whole governments to move me to a period of oppression, making a wise man mad. You understand? Where I'm running with the footman and I'm straight, because the word says it. You run with the footman and you're weary. What are you gonna do when the real war comes?
Right. So
these little things, you build up your defense for it. Understand what it takes to meditate, to be a warrior of peace, and then you'll be defending against these things. You'll learn to be slow to wrath. And it says, he that is hasty of spirit exalts folly. Exalting folly is the complete opposite of what a warrior of peace is supposed to do. Right. At no point should you be exalting folly.
Proverbs 14 and verse 30. A sound heart is the life of flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones.
So verse 30 is a deep one. A sound heart. And then the opposite of a sound heart is envy. So if the opposite of a sound heart is envy, what does it mean to have a sound heart then?
Be humble.
Humility is one of them. Humility is one aspect of a sound heart. Anybody have some more they want to? Your virtue. If I could think of some, having a sound heart is peace.
Obedience and peace.
Obedience, peace. These are things you have to meditate on. And a lot of times we overlook it and we miss out on how to be an effective warrior of peace. Each one of us are going to manifest this warrior of peace ideal in a different manner. Some of us have great strengths that we can use as a warrior of peace. But the foundation is we need to establish peace. I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know necessarily how anyone else. I know what works for me in trying to establish peace. I know what, trying to take a time to breathe, get your temper under control. First, before you even attend to any situation, you have to make sure you have a clear mind. If you know that your mind ain't clear, you can't attend to it. And then if you realize that, dang, I can't respond quickly and effectively enough because I got to take so much time to just chill out. So I realize that I'm out of order. As a warrior of peace, if I can't respond to something quickly, a pressing situation quickly, I'm out of order. And it's one thing if you're a beginner in the word, but over time as a laborer, you should know this. Paul and them, they know that when they go into a city preaching this righteousness, somebody gonna try to beat them up.
Exactly.
You have to understand this. You can't be falling to the same things over and over. At some point, you have to be efficient at, this is what I do. I establish peace. A situation got chaos in it. Have I established removing the chaos from myself? And now can I impart peace in this situation? The same way if water is acidic, or if you have an acidic, if your stomach is you have an acid reflux,
right?
You just throw a Tums in there, and it neutralizes all the acid. But are you that, or do you have that quality within yourself where if there's chaos anywhere in the world with this situation, can they just throw you there and you're able to diffuse the situation? Just like if a guy's about to jump off a bridge, they got the negotiator. Hey man, call Ricky. Ricky's the guy to call to get that guy down off that bridge so he don't kill himself.
Right.
We have to meditate on those things. And I hope that this opens up our mind to another aspect of our walk, that let's get active now. Do the stuff that Yahshua said to do. Return not the man evil for evil. Revile not those who hate you, but bless those who curse you instead.
Verse 31. He that oppresses the poor reproaches his maker, but he that honors him has mercy on the poor.
Let's settle on that one.
Go ahead, Elder.
That verse right there, kind of goes along with what the brother just said, but this verse right here deals with, how we're supposed to check ourselves first, because if you don't know who you are, then you don't know how to take care of Yahweh's people. And this verse right here expounds on, also in Matthew's, dealing with how to take care of your neighbor, how to take care of the people that are oppressed, how to take care of the people that are hungry and are thirsty and need clothes. Because he's talking about if you don't go and take care of these people, especially when you see them and they need assistance from you, then you didn't take care of Yeshua. You didn't give honor to Yeshua. So You want mercy, you got to show that mercy. You got to be able in your heart to show love for your brothers and sisters. And if you're not doing that, you're not showing mercy to them. So why should Yahweh show mercy to us when we have affliction, we have problems? You got to learn yourself. And when my brother was talking about, earlier, if you see yourself and you learn yourself, then you know how to deal with a situation when it comes up. But if you know how to deal with your own anger, I know a lot of us got anger problems, I got anger problems. But if we don't know how to quell our anger problems, how to look inside ourselves and say, look, that's my weakness, I had to change that. Because I can't help that person, this person, I can't help myself. I mean, how can I offer assistance and I can't do one for myself? So if these right here, like, people he's talking about, the oppressor, if he that oppresses the poor reproaches his maker, it means that, wait a minute, Yahweh is telling his children, take care of your brothers and sisters. Even Yeshua said in his commandments, love your brothers and sisters, as he had loved us. When he says to be married, you got to love your wife like Yeshua loved the church. That means we have to learn how to love, because a lot of us never taught this type of love. So we have to look into ourselves and say, what kind of person am I? Help me. I fall on my face. Help me, Father. Change me. Allow me to see the error of my ways and give me the strength to do righteousness. And it takes a minute for us. Some things can wash away easy, and some things you got to tarry with. So this verse right here, to me, is pretty deep. How you gonna show love if you don't know how to love?
One of the main questions you got to ask yourself is, am I mature or not? You understand? Like, when it comes to this word, am I mature? Like, do I have what it takes? Can I teach somebody else? Am I still, like I was mentioning earlier, something happens, you spending all this time trying to cool down so you don't say the wrong thing. No, that means that there's a seed in you that keeps bearing that bad fruit every single time. You got to start rooting out stuff so that you can be a more effective servant, so that some pressing situation happens, your immediate response is actually an effective one and not something that's going to just add fuel to the fire. Are you a kid? Are you still a child? No, you mature in this word. A lot of us been in this word 4 or 5 years already. It's time to overcome some of this childish behavior that we still keep succumbing to. And a lot of it is because no one has challenged us to step that high among our own little circle, where we might be the only ones that know this and know that. But when it comes down to it, we should be further than where we are. We should be ascending higher than where we are. And it has to do with us not actually we're being spiritually lazy. Number one, we're being wicked and lazy servants, aka slothful. And we're not challenging ourselves and constricting ourselves and dying to self daily so that we overcome these little things. So that verse 31 where it says, he that oppresses the poor reproaches his maker. There, a lot of people only think they're talking about money, but we know that wisdom is also riches of the kingdom. So if you're oppressing people that lack wisdom, and people who you expect them to respond a certain way and they respond foolishly, and you spend your whole time oppressing them instead of trying to uplift them, you're approaching Yah. At the end of the day, you're a servant, so you're supposed to be able to infuse wisdom or knowledge in a diplomatic way. But if you go off and you're railing and you're giving heed to anger because you feel like these people should know this already, it turns out this person is poor. They're poor. They don't have what you have. And you're pretty much Donald Trump, like, why you don't got more money? Why you ain't rich like me? No. How about you reach into your spiritual bank account, pull some temperance out, pull some patience out, pull some love out. Be like, here, hold this. Let me show you how temperance works. Let me show you how love works. Here. Now, you make sure you invest this into yourself, get usury on it so that you can pull out even more temperance and more love and more patience, and that person can bear fruit. And that's how we tithe of our own self, when we humble ourselves and we give a portion of ourselves to people's upliftment.
Right. Proverbs 14 and verse 32. The wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous have hope in his death. Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that has understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The king's favor is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him that causeth shame.
All right, that was beautiful, brother. So the king's favor is toward the warriors of peace. Because as a warrior of peace, you got to be wise. Yeshua said it. He said, be you as wise as serpents, but as harmless as doves. If you're going to be wise as a serpent, there's a little bit of cunning in there. But at the same time, you got to make sure that you know your boundaries, that you don't inflict pain or harm on other people trying to show righteousness. So there's a delicate balance in it all, and there's power in it. He who has control over his soul is greater than he that takes the city.
Right.
So we're going to switch around the order of this. We're going to go into Ecclesiasticus. Sirach.
Ecclesiastes or Ecclesiasticus?
Yeah, we're going to go into like the apocryphal book of Sirach, chapter 10. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10.
All right, and if anybody does not have access to the apocryphal books, you can always go to IsraeliteGathering.com and you can download, or you can physically look at it online, any of these books that we're going to read out of.
So, Mama, this one is actually an apocryphal book. So it's not Ecclesiastes, it's Ecclesiasticus.
Right.
So,
or Sirach.
Yeah, and that's
it's not in the King James. It's in the 1611 King James.
If Brother Mikael is gonna bring one of his books of apocrypha, but I think he's on a call right now.
All right, so we're at Sirach, the wisdom of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10, and we're at verse 1.
So this is the apocryphal book, Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10.
And you know, when people hear that, they think that this is some kind of different book. This was in the original King James Bible. They took these books out when they realized, you know, you don't need this history. You don't need this knowledge. You don't need this. This is enough for us to oppress you. So they took out certain things that leaned a lot into our culture and our history, and pointed out specific nations by names. So these aren't some kind of different books. This is just pages they ripped out the KJV.
Did someone say something on the line? Did I hear someone chime in on the call? Oh, okay. So this is also known as the Book of Wisdom, Ecclesiasticus, Sirach, or aka the Book of Wisdom.
All right. Sirach chapter 10 and verse 1. She preserved the first formed father of the world that was created alone, and brought him out of his fall, and gave him power to rule all things. And when the unrighteous went away from her in his anger, he perished also.
That's actually the Book of Wisdom. So that's another book. So yours is Sirach.
Yeah, I picked the wrong one.
So the Book of Wisdom actually
Sirach.
book.
Yeah, the Book of Wisdom is Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus chapter 10. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein.
All right, so as a warrior of peace, you understand too the workings of Yah. You understand also that Yah is in the affairs of men, whether it be in their governments, whether it be in schools, whether it be the highs and the lows, whether it be parents, homes, aunts, uncles. Yah is very entrenched in the affairs of men. And one of the last, one of the scriptures that we came across in Proverbs verse 14, it was saying, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. So if a nation is involved in corruption, Yah overthrows them. And we've seen it over and over again. A secular nation, one that doesn't even have Yah as their Alihi, but he rises them up. They do good for a while, and then over time, a rottenness takes them over. A rotten corruption takes them over, and Yah sets them up for a fall. We've seen it with the Assyrians. We've seen it with the Babylonians. We've seen it with the Chaldeans. We've seen it with Persia. We've seen it with Rome. We've seen it with Greece. We've seen it with Egypt. We've seen it with Ethiopia. It happens to all the nations. Unless you're walking in the ways of Yah, it says, blessed is the nation whose Elohim is Yah. Right. Blessed is the land whose Elohim is Yah. But if these people do not establish the teachings that destroy chaos, or even destroy the teachings that establish chaos, which are two of the same things, they're going to have trouble. It's just like a pond. If the water is not moving, if the water is not living, if you're not doing the things to cultivate peace, it's going to get stagnant and destroy itself. You have to be active in this peace as being a warrior of peace. You have to be active in it.
One thing I thought was interesting about the history of China, the first emperor of China that united the whole area of China. When they were setting up their kingdom, you know, it was a vast kingdom. They were taking over all kind of land. And what they were doing was chopping down all the trees and building these huge shrines and huge things. And what they ended up doing is they ended up cutting down all their food supply.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
So they started to starve. And that's how that first emperor lost. And then you look at that and we look at the word that we have. The word that we have says even when we invade a country, we're not supposed to chop down the trees that provide food.
That's right.
So this wickedness that they were doing and cutting down the trees to build, you know, these idol temples or whatever, you know, they were architecture and big structures, was actually the downfall of them. Whereas our law, we were told not to do that. And if we were in righteousness, we would have had all that land, all that victory, and we would have still been able to survive without that food. So we don't realize, you know, how blessed we are as a nation to receive all these righteous laws that we won't even understand until it gets to a certain point where we see, that's why we're supposed to keep these laws.
You know, brother, I'm glad you even brought that law up. What the law of Yah does is that it removes us from being too involved in the carnality of our emotion, to the point where even if you're at war, he doesn't want you too caught up in just brazen destruction. Don't destroy the fruit trees. Destroy the people, of course. Root them all the way out. But the fruit trees you can employ, have some wisdom. Even in your war, you're supposed to have some sense. When you're planting, in the 7th year, you let the land rest. You don't just plant. You get caught up in the greed of wanting increase. You're going to destroy the land. You're going to deplete all the nutrients in the soil. The 7th year, you just let it rest and replenish itself. And the ones that grow by themselves, you allow it. You don't glean your whole field and just get greedy. You take everything for yourself. But you leave the corners of your field. This is in the law. You leave the corners of your field so that the poor can have some. And these things affect your internals. These things affect the type of person you become. The law of Yah is righteous and is made for humans. Simple as that.
Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10.
Start again at verse 1, brother. So now we have context as to what we're talking about.
All right. Sirach, chapter 10 and verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. An unwise king destroys his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited.
All right. So if warriors of peace are in power, it's going to trickle down to the rest of the people.
Thus why this country is not at peace, because the leadership and the powers that be behind the closed doors that are pulling the puppet strings have been at war. Do we have a comment? Do we have a comment? All right, this is an open forum, so if we have any comments, just chime in and we'll take the comment. Verse 4. The power of the earth is in the hand of Yahweh, and in the due time he will set over it one that is profitable.
All right, so in due time, Yah is going to set over the nation a warrior of peace, or someone who is established that they understand how to administer peace in their dwelling. It seems like there's crosstalk in the line. That's just interference in the.
It's the other phone. Sounds like the other phone.
Oh, okay.
Unmuted.
As soon as I cut. All right. Verse 5. Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 5. In the hand of Elohim is the prosperity of man, and upon the person of the scribe shall he lay his honor. Bear not hatred to your neighbor for every wrong, and do nothing at all by injurious practices.
All right, so bear not hatred to your brother for every wrong. Don't be malicious. As a warrior of peace, remove malice from your heart. That's the noteworthy right there. As a warrior of peace, remove malice from your heart.
Pride is hateful before Elohim and man, and by both does one commit iniquity.
So by maliciousness and by pride, we commit iniquity. So as a warrior of peace, these are things that all are under the branch of perversity. These are the things that lead you out of the way. So if you're always wondering, why am I always ending up in this situation? It's because you're perverse.
Right.
It's simple as that. You're still entertaining either pride or you're still entertaining maliciousness or injurious practices. This is malice. These are the things that will push you out of the way and cause you to depart and turn aside. Even if you're not willingly doing it, your meditation is causing it.
Right.
So you can see in people's lives, there's some people that only know how to manifest destruction, and it's because they have not been taught in the ways of the wisdom of Yah. And Yah's law is universal. So even if a person is ignorant of it, you're still gonna have to bear the iniquity of it. And when you come to understanding of your ignorance, repent and turn away so you don't have to bear the consequences of it anymore.
Right. And looking at mercy and being merciful and not malicious towards your neighbor. What is one thing that will stop you from being merciful?
Hate.
And pride. Pride will cause you to be hateful. And your pride will say, oh, how dare you do this to me? I've done this to other people, but how dare you do that to me? So it's like, you know, don't be having up your neighbor for everything. This is constantly. You constantly keep coming in my yard, running over my grass, ruining my stuff. I was merciful. I spoke to you. I even tried to, I opened up more of my property, gave you some of my property, whatever that was in my power. But pride will cause you to be like, how dare somebody do that to me? So when you find yourself constantly being hateful or malicious to somebody, you have to ask yourself, what is the root of all that? It's the pride. It's the exaltation of yourself. And then when you read the characters and you look at Yahshua and how he went through things, how can you be prideful? This man was killed for being perfect. So who are you?
You know, brother, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the first scriptures we read was about Asa. In the following chapter, in 2 Chronicles chapter 16, a prophet comes to Asa and says something to him about why he went to a governor of Syria and trusted in him. And Asa was vexed and put the guy in prison. So he did all these good things and he received all this exaltation for peace and all this. And as soon as all of that praise went to his head, the prophet of Yah came to him to talk to him, and there was no room for him to receive it. And he erred at his last and his foot rotted off. So don't ever get stuck thinking that you got it your whole time. Being a warrior of peace, and just even aside from that, righteousness in general. Saying warrior of peace adds, a brand. We like branding when we turn something into a tangible concept. But at the depth of it is just general righteousness. This is righteousness as it is. And righteousness is something that you have to cultivate. You have to be intent in cultivating it. The same way you get up every day and you have to cut the potatoes or whatever you're cooking, you have to have an intent. You have to actually put manual labor and work into it. It's the same way you have to put work into making sure you're peaceful. That means all your steps have to be mapped out. When I go to work today, I'm not going to have this person up in my heart because I know that's going to defile my temple. When I go home, I'm not going to sit here and argue with my wife. I'm not going to sit here and argue or try to take out my wrath on my children, because these things are going to defile my temple. If I'm going to correct my children, let me correct my children in purity of just discipline. Not because I had a bad day at work. You understand? So we have to make sure that we're deliberate and we're intentional in purging out these iniquitous ways that are going to defile our testimonies as warriors of peace.
And it all falls back to that endurance again. You're going to have to endure. You get to any point in a match. Look at the Falcons. That's a perfect example. You got it.
Why you got to open up that old
You got the record. You got the record, but because you did not endure. You thought that you was good. There it is. You slip. And sin and walking in righteousness is the same exact way. You done made all these strides. You good. You done got past all that hatred that came at you, and then you see a little situation, you're like, I got that. Next thing you know, you choking the crap out of somebody. You're like, what happened? You didn't endure. You're going to endure this flesh until the end. And this flesh is not going to just change. The flesh is always going to be sinful. But you're going to have to endure that sin all the way until you that sinful blood is removed from you and become that new body.
Indeed. And, you know, aside from it, the side note just for you, I saw you have Gadol there. I realized that the word for high priest is actually Gadol. So it's like the Gadol is like a head or like a principal seat. So you have the little seat, and you have the high priest seat at the four corners. Yeah. The one that's heaped up and has more. So Gadol and Gadol kind of have the same.
And the word Gadol is for what?
High priest or high, yeah. Okay. Gadol is like one of the adjectives for going into priest. So it's like a Gadol Kohen,
like the Aaronic priest.
Yeah, like a Gadol Kohen. So Kohen is priest, and a Gadol Kohen is a high priest.
Sons of Aaron. All right, we're at Sirach chapter 10 and verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another.
All right, read that again, brother.
Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another.
All right, so what stops a country from remaining a world power?
Unrighteous dealings, injuries,
and riches got by deceit. So doing unrighteousness, which is corruption, doing oppression, which is injuries, and riches got by deceit, which is robberies, would cause Yah to remove a kingdom from being number one and establish another kingdom in its place.
And the thing is, these other nations didn't receive all these laws that we got. So they have to be exceedingly wicked to be removed. Yeah, because he will exalt all these other nations to make a point against us. And then he will remove that nation when they're exceedingly wicked. Versus us, we had all these instructions and prophets, you know, and miracles, to the point where everything we do is exceedingly wicked because you've had all those examples. You had your forefathers. You have the Holy Spirit. You have a whole spirit set aside to dwell with you, to comfort you in the times of your flesh aching to do something that is wrong.
Right.
Go ahead, Elder.
Just to strengthen that explanation, just look at Mizraim, you know, Egypt. What did our people do to be put in slavery? Nothing that I can see. The only thing I can probably imagine that our people had done was that they intimidated, you know, Israel because of their numbers, their vast numbers of growing, and maybe words stretched out later on of, let's say, how powerful the Elohim is, but yet they tell you that they didn't know about that, about the power of Elohim by the time they was introduced into slavery. But what about the wrongness that our people had done when Dinah was raped? They destroyed, you know, a whole city of men because, you know, they treated their daughter, their sister like a whore. But that wasn't what their father had made a covenant with, supposed to treat her as a princess, you know, from that evil deed that happened. But still, they took it upon themselves to do that. Now, yet, is that something that they was also paying for? We don't know. But yet, our people didn't seem to do anything, but they went into slavery, and they treated them with rigor. There was evil unto them. And then later on, you wanted to murder their firstborn. You know, you wanted to kill them because of a prophecy that you was afraid of. You know, but you're supposed to be so powerful. So, you know, since there was the metropolis, you know, of the world at that time, all trade came through Mizraim, you know, and it became real powerful because of the 11th son of Yaakov, you know, Yosef, that was obedient to the father. So Egypt got blessed because our people were there. Yaakov was there and our people was there. But yet what happened? Because of the evil in their heart, you understand how deep-rooted their evil was, and all these different gods that they worshiped, Yahweh had to show them who he was. And our people were crying out for the Father. So Yahweh sent to deliver the people. But look what happened to that city. There was never a superpower again. And the whole world knew of their fall. So just wanted to emphasize a little more on what you expounded on just now, brother.
Sirach chapter 10 and verse 9. Why is earth and ashes proud? There's not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. For such as one setteth his own soul to sale, because while he lives, he cast away his bowels.
All right, so as a warrior of peace, you got to throw away covetousness. Stop being attached to things and ready to sell out your whole soul over some money. It's not worth it. It has no equate. It has no. It's not even to be put next to the worth of the wisdom of your soul. These are temporal things. Let it be. It'll come. If Yah wants you to have it, you have it. If you don't want you to have it, you won't have it.
And how are you gonna leave the corner of your field open, give a tenth of your stuff, and offer your offerings, your first fruit offerings, and all that, if your whole desire is to heap up a whole bunch of stuff?
Yeah.
It's gonna be difficult for you to give stuff away. And what's interesting with the law built in the way it's built in, there was already a welfare system in place,
Safety net.
for the poor. And when it's talking about covetousness, when you are taking that tenth that belongs to the poor, that tithe that belongs to the Levite, which was supposed to go to the poor, the fatherless, and the widows, and you keep that yourself, you have been covetous of your own things. And when you're covetous of your own things, you can never have enough, which means you're going to have your neighbor's things, which means you're going to have to amass more and more, like that parable with the barn, where Yah blessed you with more than can fill your barn, where you're storing stuff. That's the stuff you're not even eating. And your mind goes to, well, let me build a bigger barn, instead of saying, well, where's all the poor people? Let me bless the poor. Covetousness.
That's covetous, brother. Go ahead and read verse 9 again.
Why is the earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. For such as one set his own soul
to sale. Go ahead.
Because while he lives, he cast away his bowels.
Sell his soul, bro, over some stuff.
His own body. He's going to bring death to himself.
You saw like Gehazi running after Naaman's clothes just so you could have leprosy the rest of your life, and your whole lineage could have leprosy.
That's right.
Verse 10. The physician cut off a long disease, and he that is today a king, tomorrow shall die.
So have a sober judgment and understanding of yourself. You're just dust. Just for a little bit of time, Yah gave you life. All that rage and all that anger is not worth it. Be a warrior of peace. Understand. Be profitable to Yah so that you can have worth in his sight. That, man, this dust can actually be a steward over the whole earth. You have worth and you mean something. You'll mean something to him. And you won't be as spittle as the adulterous woman and the whore.
Verse 11. For when a man is dead, he shall inherit creeping things, beasts and worms. The beginning of pride is when one departs from Elohim, and his heart is turned away from his maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that has it shall power out abomination. And therefore Yahweh brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly.
So if we ever belittled the severity of what pride is, if the fear of Yah is the beginning of understanding, pride is the beginning of sin. That's the gateway drug to all type of abomination. Every other wicked thing that can happen in your life can start out with the pride. Let it go. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Just dust.
We're just dust. At the end of the day, whatever riches you got is going to go on to somebody else. Nothing that you got here is going to be able to make it in the next kingdom. Let the pride go. Learn how to be an efficient warrior of peace. That's the only thing that's profitable among us. The rest of it is just a delusion. The rest of it is just the mammon of man. Use the unrighteous mammon to gain friends for yourself. That's the only good use it has.
Right. And you know, that pride spirit is there for a reason. It's just misdirected. If you take that same pride and put pride in the Most High, I know when I used to, back in the day when I used to rap, it was all about how great I was. I was just so great. You know, that's hip hop. That's how we do. It's just about boasting. Well, if you take that same spirit and talk about how great the Most High is,
It's one of the best
that's a
things.
psalm.
That's a psalm.
That's a psalm. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So this same pride that we have is there for us to have pride in the Most High, because we are gods. We are part of Elohim. So we should take pride in him by saying, you know what? Now, how Elohim is too high. How dare I treat his children like that?
Yeah.
How dare I defile my temple and make Elohim imperfect because of me?
Because of me.
And that's where the pride is supposed to be directed. But because we exude some of his glory and some of his majesty, then we take that and like it was ours, like we created it when we were a creation.
Brother, today I was reading 4th Maccabees, chapter 2, I believe. And what it said, and the guy is a wise person. There's a lot of ancient wisdom floating around in these books. But what he said is that you have all these emotions. You have anger, wrath, pride, all these things. And then you have the reason that's given to you by the law. And it says none of us are going to completely eradicate malice and wickedness and wrath out of our minds. But we have the reason of the law to put these things and war against them and put them in their proper perspective so that we end up being sovereign over our bodies and we just don't get overrun with all the emotions that come with the flesh. So you're given this expensive body. You are in a Lamborghini. You're in a Bugatti. You're in one of the greatest creations known upon all the earth, the human body, and all its emotions and all its reasonings and all the ways it's able to differentiate between what is good and what is evil. And Yah puts you in the center of that body to be a sovereign and rule and judge. You're a judge in this vessel, putting everything that's going on in your body in right position. It's like you know how we like watching Transformers or even Gundam, where you operate in a big machine suit. You know, you go inside the suit like Power Rangers, and you could get the arm to do this and do a punch. Well, you're in a body like this. This is actually what's happening. When you say for this arm to raise up, it raises up. When you want it to go down, it goes down. You want to do a spinning roundhouse kick, whatever you want to do, you can do it. But Yah says, I want you to be in control of this thing because I want to make you powerful. It says you're fearfully and wonderfully made. We have the capacity to do all these great things, but we just are so ignorant. At the base of it, we're just ignorant. We don't know that I could be doing so much better. All of us could be doing way better than what we're doing right now, but we're so ignorant of the power and the goodness that Yah has placed within us. We just succumb to, we just settle for the trash that we could put out. I'm going to cuss this person out because it made me mad. I'm going to go to the store and get my refund back because all I care about is money. Who cares? Right. Who cares? There's better things to worry about. Yeah, you know, don't let nobody go over you, especially if you're tight with finances. You want to make sure nobody's taking advantage of you. But it's not the end of the world, and it's not the paramount thing. The paramount thing you need to focus on is that you're gaining wisdom and you're learning how to be a proper steward over this body that you've been given as a warrior of peace.
Right. And, you know, a lot of these things that we do it because it happened to us. Because somebody did it to us.
Or somebody showed us this is the way to act.
Right. So if we start doing the same thing, we can start rebuilding brains by saying, okay, you know what? I railed on this brother. And that brother just looked at me and he allowed me to calm down, and then he explained what was going on. I felt like a fool. You know, well, guess what? Somebody railed on me. And I sat back and said, you know, looked at him like, you foolish, and fixed the situation. So if we all do that, because the common response is going to be same in the world. It's going to be whatever the flesh feels, whatever's going to make themselves feel prideful to keep their pride intact. So like you said, with the control of all these different things, yeah, we seen the robot go over here and punch this guy. Well, what if the robot go over there and take this brick and build this house?
It's a lot more profitable.
Now you see somebody else do that. Now the next person over there building a house.
Yes.
Because he's seen the next person do that. And that's what we have to do as citizens of the kingdom, is start rebuilding by taking this same machinery and saying, okay, the world is doing it this way, but there's another way.
There's another way. There's another way. Indeed, brother.
Sirach chapter 10 and verse 14.
You know, and you know what, brother? A lot of the habits that we do have a lot to do with our upbringing. Sometimes we even saw our parents behave certain ways, and we're like, this is just the way you respond when you're oppressed. You just cuss people out. And you don't realize that, hold on, there's other ways. I can actually be profitable here and show this person how to deal with people better so that no one will feel provoked to respond to them with anger.
Right.
So instead of them not, because they're already blind to seeing their own wrongs, but then they're going to be offended because people are offended the way they're acting. So we don't want to be descendants, because to descend actually means to drop down. We want to be ascendants of our forefathers. We don't want to do the trash that everyone preceding us had done. We want to do better and build upon it and teach our children to do better as well. You never know how the children are going to manifest the good seeds you place in them.
Sirach chapter 10 and verse 14. Yahweh has cast down the thrones of proud princes and set up the meek in their stead. Yahweh have plucked up the roots of the proud nations and planted the lowly in their place. Yahweh overthrew countries of the heathen and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. And you can see why they took this stuff out of here. They're like, nah, get that out of here. Verse 17. He took some of them away and destroyed them and made their memorial to cease from the earth. Pride was not made for men, nor furious anger for them that are born of a woman.
All right. So the same way homosexuality is not made for men, it's saying here, pride is not made for men. A man is not supposed to lie with another man. And here it's saying pride is not made for you. You're not made to operate in this spirit of arrogance. Yah created you to operate in a spirit of stewardship. And you got to find ways to do this better. Gain control over yourself so that you can be proficient. You can be a prophet of Yah, so to speak. If you get yourself in line, Yah can use you to do whatsoever it is in any magnitude he wants. And you can do the things that he set you forth to do. He even used Cyrus. Cyrus didn't even call Yah necessarily his Elohim, but there was something he liked in Cyrus that he used and was able to do the work of Yah just through straight obedience and not giving heed to pride and looking and saying these Hebrews were taken away from the place where they were, put them back where they came from.
According to what's written, according to the contract.
Yeah, put them back where they came from. You don't need a book to tell you this. You can just look. And there's an innate quality like, hey, this place is not their home. Their home was over there. Let's put them back where they came from.
Right. And he had some kind of, honor to see what was written and Darius the king and things of that nature. And they could be used by the Most High if they can be humble.
Indeed.
Verse 19. They that fear Yahweh are a sure seed, and they that love him an honorable plant. They that regard not the law are a dishonorable seed. They that transgress the commandments are a deceivable seed. So what kind of seed are we? That's the question we have to constantly ask ourselves. And just because you repent one time don't mean that you automatically a different seed.
Indeed.
Because we have to endure. Verse 20. Among brethren, he that is chief is honorable. So are they that fear Yahweh in his eyes. The fear of Yahweh goes before the obtaining of authority, but roughness and pride is the losing thereof.
All right, so as a warrior of peace, there's a certain tact that you have to have. Yahweh wants to see your diplomacy. Yahweh wants to see your ability to diffuse situations, perform his works, speak his word, admonish people, uplift the broken, clothe the homeless, clothe the naked, house the homeless, even feed them. There's just Yah is expecting certain things out of you as a benchmark.
Right.
You understand? So if you start falling below the mark, it's like, hold on, you're becoming unprofitable. I created you to be unprofitable. All this that you're doing down here is not even where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Here's where you're breaking even. All these things about peace and stuff, this is where you're breaking even. I want you to start getting profitable and start doing these things as second nature and learning it. So the first thing, the most elementary one is put away the anger and the pride. That's the first step. That's the white belt. Or what's the first one to cry? Is the white belt or green belt?
White.
Yeah, that's white belt stuff. Get control over yourself. If you don't have control over yourself, you're a useless servant. You're wasting time. You're wasting Yah's precious time. Get control over yourself. You're not 5 years old anymore. We're growing and we need to be mature. and we need to move forward and start being more profitable, then we can be used by Yah. Like, no, this is a man. He's temperate. He knows how to handle himself. He can be a steward over my kingdom during the time that he reigns on this earth. You don't want to waste the time that you have here, whether you be a young man, whether you be of priest age, whether you be an elder. You can be profitable at any age. Do it properly. Follow the words of Yah, and he'll return to you your right nature and stop you from doing the wicked things of the heathen.
Right. And pride affects so many things, you know, more than just wrath and anger, but, you know, it affects envy.
It's stuff that happens in the heart.
Right. Disobedience to the law because you feel like, well, I have free will. I can do what I want to do. You know, how we treat people, our kindness to them. It's so many aspects. So like you said, it is the pride itself is literally that white belt, because you have to,
you're hindered
you
so
have
much.
to humble yourself in order to acknowledge the true power of Elohim.
It's like in order to walk into the temple of God, you have this narrow door. A lot of us want to walk up in there like, yeah, you can't get your shoulders in. I was like, first of all, put away the leaven, because right now you just puffed up.
Just puffed up.
You're not gonna fit through this.
Your normal size.
Get back to your normal size. You know, bring yourself in, humble yourself,
Take
meditate.
a spiritual laxative.
Take a spiritual laxative and let go of all that mess you got going on. You know, drink some prune juice and let that ish go, and you may be able to squeeze your way through into my temple so you can operate in the way. But if you're outside the temple, you're not even allowed to enter the holy place. You can't be profitable. The first step is to get yourself in order. Do the unleavening process. Become a spiritual monk of peace, and then you can enter into Yah's temple and do the works of Yah.
All right, let me just check something real quick.
No problem, no problem.
Can't even see the phone.
I know one of these, I think that's the mute. Oh, woo, woo, woo. Yeah, it's that one.
All right, so we're at Sirach chapter 10 and verse 22. Whether he be rich, noble, or poor, their glory is the fear of Yahweh. It is not meet to despise the poor man that has understanding, neither is it convenient to magnify a sinful man. Great men and judges and potentates shall be honored, yet is there none of them greater than he that fears Yahweh. Unto the servant that is wise shall they that are free do service, and he that has knowledge will not grudge when he is reformed.
So as a warrior of peace, you're not going to grudge when Yah's correcting you. You're going to take it like a man. Just man up. Take it. Because there was a time when humanity was living 900 years. You only live in like 60, 70. And if you get strength, you can exceed all of that. But in that short amount of time, you have a lot of ground to cover. Every little hindrance, let it go. This is all about your profitability. Now, if you just want to do whatever you want to do in life, it's fine. Nobody really forced anyone to be a warrior of peace. But if this is the walk you have chosen, these are the things you got to do. Be profitable. Throw away every stumbling block that's slowing you down. Just throw it out. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. It's slowing me down. I got to learn to be more humble. I got to learn how to be temperate. And that's, like I said, those are just the beginning steps of Yah blessing you with greater understanding, because he's not going to make you disproportionate in your understanding. He's not going to give you the beauty of the riches of understanding and you're still, slapping up on your significant other. Like, you got to learn how to get yourself right so Yah can bring you deeper. And the more he wants to give you, the more that's going to be required of you to gain mastery over yourself.
Verse 26. Be not overwise in doing your business, and boast not yourself in the time of your distress. Better is he that labors and aboundeth in all things than he that boasteth himself and wants bread. So that fake it till you make it stuff is talking about that right there. Verse 28. My son, glorify your soul in meekness, and give it honor according to your dignity thereof. Who will justify him that sins against his own soul? And who will honor him that dishonors his own life?
So that's similar to what we read in Proverbs. You know, what is the backslider is going to inherit? And the good man, what is he going to inherit? They're going to inherit their own ways. So who will justify him that sins against his own soul? You did this to yourself. Y'all didn't tell you, hey, do all these transgressions against me. Hey, envy your neighbor and cover all his stuff. Y'all didn't tell you those things. Y'all told you not to envy your neighbor. But if these are the things that you allow in your heart, as the owner of your own temple, you're the owner of the land of your heart, and you allowed all these weeds to grow within yourself. Like you're sovereign over that area. Y'all gave you dominion over that. And you just let the soil of your heart get overgrown with thorns, and you don't do the proper gardening that you should be doing within. And Yah sees what's going on within. Although you may be able to hide it from the outside world, Yah's like, look at your heart. How you let all that envy and wickedness take root in there, covetousness? That's why you can't operate properly on the outside, because the inside is corrupt.
Right. Verse 30. The poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for his riches. He that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? And he that is dishonorable in riches, how much more in poverty?
All right. That was a great establishment of peace right there. I'm definitely glad we went through that. Let us go and look into 1 Timothy chapter 6. So now we're going to get some New Testament examples of how do we establish peace. How do we establish peace? And peace is not only established by you establishing it, but it's also established by you destroying the chaos that's around you. Anything that can establish chaos, you have to eradicate it from your area, or else peace cannot reside there. So you can't just let stuff linger around you. It's like, no, this is going to disturb the peace that's in my area. It has to go. Right. And sometimes if you pray hard enough, Yah will remove it for you. He'll do all the pruning. When you realize your strength is weak, he'll do all the work.
Right. And a perfect example of that is, in the end, what happens? He removes all that's unpeaceful. He removes the adversary, the devil. He gets rid of the death and decaying blood that we have in us that cause us to feel a lot of these emotions. And he removes all those workers of iniquity that refuse to live in peace.
Exactly.
1 Timothy chapter 6, and we're going to start this at verse 1. Let as many servants as are under the yoke count their own masters worthy of all honor, that the name of Yahweh and his doctrine be not blasphemed. And they that have believing masters, let them not despise them, because they are brethren, but rather do them service, because they are faithful and beloved, partakers of the benefit. These things teach and exhort.
All right, so we've had this reoccurring theme of slavery, and we see that in the scriptures. This is often talked about and looked down upon and frowned upon. But if you look at the scriptures, you look in Leviticus, the having someone have dominion over you isn't necessarily the transgression; it's the rigor of it. You understand? If I'm broke and I need money, and I know someone that's actually making money, if you're the landowner, I say, hey man, allow me to work on your land for a while, be a good steward of it. You're like, all right, sure, cool. And I'm working it, and you give me my pay on time, and you're benevolent toward me and my family. I don't see the issue there. There's no transgression there, because it's actually helping me, giving me an opportunity to not be stuck out on the street.
You have choice.
Free will.
Right.
And I fell on hard times, and my brother helped me. But if I was to go and work on his land, and he's like, hey man, get up, man. You told me it's gonna be up by 5. And it's 4:30. Hey, you supposed to be brushing your teeth by now. You like invading my area. And then I'm in the field and you whipping me and you kicking me. And then my wife is watching and you doing all this stuff to me. And then you go and you defile my wife. And that's rigor.
Right.
And these are the things that happened in American slavery. There was nothing but...
I'm good, brother.
I'm good. Thank you. There was nothing but rigor going on. And this is the transgression of servanthood and mastership and things of that nature. If you are in a position of authority over people, and this happens at work, the transgression is the rigor. Remember, have fear of Elohim. These are human lives you're dealing with, people that have emotion. Learn mercy And as a warrior of peace, when you're in that position, you can teach other people who are under you to behave more wisely and understand that even as someone in authority, you can also behave as a servant to them and serving them. You know, someone that's living on your land, you actually making the food, you're helping them in some of the labors.
Right.
It becomes a symbiotic relationship. Y'all
Right.
both benefit.
The greatest among you
is the servant of all.
Right. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 3. If any man teach otherwise and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of our Adonai Yahshua HaMashiach, and to the doctrine which is according to his righteousness, he is proud, knowing nothing, but doing about questions and strifes of words, whereof come envy, strife, railings, evil surmisings.
So these, if you pour over into these things are going to stop you from being a good warrior of peace.
Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is holiness, from such withdraw yourself. But holiness with contentment is great gain.
All right, so some people preach out here that gain, which is, you know, your gain of money, house, riches, material things, is holiness or godliness or righteousness.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true, because verse 6 tells you holiness, righteousness with contentment is gain. So being satisfied with what you have while knowing the law of Yah is gain and is of great worth in the sight of Elohim.
And you got to think about it. It's Yah that grants man the ability to be rich or to be poor or to be, you know, a leader or to be, you know, in a position of subjection. So we know that Elohim is righteous. You're gonna reap what you sow. So when you're not receiving what you think you believe and you discontent and being disrespectful about it, you basically saying the Most High not paying you your money. You can say that to a man. He not paying you what he say you're supposed to pay you, or you feel like you should be paid more because you're producing more. But you can't say that to the Most High, because he's giving you, he's merciful. He's giving you more than what you deserve to be an, if at best, an unprofitable servant.
Indeed. Great insight, brother.
Verse 7. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. But they which will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. And that's the reason why we broke. Because we can't handle that. When the servant rules, what happens?
The people mourn.
So we have to learn how to be royalty. If we learn how to be royalty, then we can receive the riches. But we want to keep acting like the servants. As soon as we get something, well, we got, you know, Lamborghini. You know, you could be building wealth and starting businesses to help, but we got to floss. We got to show. We got to try to compete with the wicked people that install their riches.
Carnal.
Verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from their faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows.
All right, so 9 and 10, they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare and into many foolish and hurtful lusts. So this chasing of money for the rest of your life is going to get you in trouble. Stop it. Seek the kingdom of Yah first, and he'll add unto you the things you need. Because at verse 10, it says, the love of money is the root of evil, and people have pierced themselves with many sorrows because it is money. Let it be. It'll come to you. Pray to Yah first, and he'll provide the things that you need in its right perspective and in its right proportion.
Right, and you go right up to verse 8. If you have food and raiment,
let us therewith be content.
Be content. Because the homeless brother out there is starving. Verse 11. But you, O man of Elohim, flee these things and follow after righteousness, holiness, faith, love, patience, meekness. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life, whereunto you are also called, and has professed a good profession before many witnesses. I give you charge in the sight of Yahweh, who quickeneth all things, and before Mashiach Yahshua, who before Pontius Pilate witnessed a good confession, that you keep this commandment without spot, unrebukable, until the appearing of our Adonai Yahshua HaMashiach, which in his times he shall show who is the blessed and only potentiate, the King of kings and Master of masters, who only have immortality, dwelling in the light which no man can approach unto, whom no man hath seen nor can see, to whom be honor and power everlasting.
So look at what we're aspiring to. Someone residing in the heavens of heavens.
Right.
And we down here still submitting ourselves and yielding our members to carnality. Nah, we have a great calling waiting on us. Aspire to it. It's glorious light, the beauty of his riches. That's the type of thing we should be seeking, and the carnal things, put those to the side.
Amen. Charge them that are rich in the world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living Elohim, who gives us richly all things to enjoy. That they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life. And I like how it says, giving us richly in all things to enjoy, they that do good, that they be rich in good works. And that's where we need to be striving for, being rich in good works. And in doing that is ready to distribute.
Yeah.
Willing to communicate.
Understanding our calling so that we don't feel a certain type of way when we have to come out of pocket for stuff.
Right. Ready to share. And this ready to share is not just ready to share your money, because that's what rich people do. They got money, so they just give away money. But what about those that are rich in spirit, rich in his word? So we keep it for ourselves and we give it to our families. But then when we see our brothers and sisters doing foolishness, we don't want no problem. So we're not going to say nothing. That's not ready to share. That's not ready to distribute.
And sometimes, sometimes we apprehensive about how they're going to respond. But, sometimes you got to make that sacrifice. Be the object of their scorn for the sake of their conversion. It happens sometimes, but you'll have your reward in the end.
I mean, are we psychic? We know the future?
No.
We don't know what that person's going to say. I guarantee every last one of us at some point in our lives, the word came to us and people was like, he ain't finna listen to that. That's finna go one ear and out the other.
And you never know what sticks.
Oh, verse 20, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to your trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called, which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Grace be with you. Amen.
All right, so we're going to go to the conclusion of the matter. I know it's late, but if I can offer y'all just a little more gold, if I could offer y'all just a little more redemption, and we can tarry for just another 7 minutes, we'll go to Sirach chapter 28, Ecclesiasticus chapter 28, and we get the last bits of what it's going to take to be at least a proficient warrior of peace, so that we could be more profitable in our stewardship of Yah's riches. Sirach chapter 28, Ecclesiasticus chapter 28. And all the foundation that we laid in this study about, how to look away from the perverseness and purging that out of our hearts. Now we can read this last chapter and see and get that direct home stretch, that home run hit, and say, this is what's going to drive me home and get me over that hill that I've been battling to get over in my testimony.
Right. And I think what you had earlier in the class that we didn't get to go over, Ecclesiastes chapter 5, where it talks about, this is your joy of your portion. When you take, appreciation for what he's allowed you in this life, it allow you to have a content mind and not to lean towards covetousness. Because when you're dissatisfied with what you have, when you have the basics, that leads to covetousness, because somebody else might have it, and now you wanting what belongs to somebody else.
Also, make sure you guys write Ephesians chapter 6 for your going home study. You want to read Ephesians chapter 6, and you also want to read Titus chapter 3. Titus chapter 3. These are all chapters that will help you in your testimony to Yah. Ephesians chapter 6 and Titus chapter 3. And right now we're reading Sirach chapter 28.
Right. And people will feel like, oh, that's that Greek stuff. They're just quoting what they got from Torah. That's it.
Indeed.
Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 28 and verse 1. He that revenges shall find vengeance from Yahweh, and he will surely keep his sins in remembrance. Forgive your neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto you. So shall your sins also be forgiven when you prayest. And that's also tied in with love covers a multitude of sins.
Go ahead and read that verse one more time.
Forgive your neighbor that hurt. Forgive your neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto you. So shall your sins also be forgiven when you prayest. One man beareth hatred against another, and does he seek pardon from Yahweh? He shows no mercy to a man, which is like himself. And does he ask for forgiveness of his own sins? That's hypocrisy. If he that is but flesh nourish hatred, who will entreat for pardon of his sins?
If he that is but flesh nourish hatred, so you're going to give food to the things that establish chaos. How are you going to nourish hatred when you're supposed to be nourishing peace? You can't nourish hatred and nourish peace at the same time within the same person. One is tending to life and the other is tending to your death. Another is tending to your demise. One is tending to your own destruction while you stand and breathe and take air on this earth. One of them is going to kill you. You cannot tend to life and death at the same time. You cannot have light and dark abiding in the same spot. Either you're going to be a warrior of peace or you're going to be a child of Belial. Choose one. You can't do both. You can't nourish hatred within yourself. That's cancer. And does any of us, if we find out we had cancer, are we going to eat the same things that we know is going to been nourishing this cancer in our body the whole time?
Not if we care about our life.
No. So you got to make a decision to say, I'm not making a covenant with death today. I'm not nourishing hatred. It has to die here. And I'm going to give life to the peace in my life through these things as we've gone over today.
Verse 6. Remember your end, and let enmity cease, corruption and death, and abide in the commandments.
Remember your end. Remember you're about to die. Let it go. The grudges, let them go. The hatred, just let it go. It's not worth it. Learn to be profitable in the little bit of life you have left. And love one another the way Yahweh has asked us to do.
Remember the commandments, and bear no malice to your neighbor. The covenant of the highest, and wink at ignorance. And that winking at ignorance, a prideful man can't do that. A prideful man will punch you in your face when you come at him ignorant.
He wanna hold you accountable for every little mistake, and it's not worth it.
Right.
Sometimes people sometimes we think people are supposed to know stuff, sometimes they just don't know. You come to realize over time when people act certain ways, like they really just don't know how to do better. And you have to allow it. And you have to say, that's someone that's poor. Let me offer out of whatever riches I may have, or let me pray so that y'all could bless me with understanding how to deal with that, and bless that person with understanding how to improve, so we can all gain. If you love your brother, and if you love the creation of Yah.
Right.
Even the wicked man, Yah causes rain to fall upon him for a reason. There's a specific amount of love that Yah has in allowing that person to abide. And then he'll be cutting them off for the sake of justice in the right time as well.
Right. When we see a baby, and a baby is doing something foolish, and we see that, we don't go over the top angry with them doing stuff, like he's sitting there, taking something and trying to put it in his mouth. You're like, it's a baby. Don't do that, baby. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't get, oh my God, I can't believe you done put this thing in, and you put this thing in your mouth. I can't believe you did that. Any adult around you is going to look at you like, you look stupid.
And the baby can't even understand what you're saying.
It's a baby. Well, it's the same thing. We forget that spiritually when we deal with these people that don't study this word. They come out their mouth and they say the most ignorant stuff.
And you got to be wise on how to respond back.
And what we see a lot of our brothers do, and I used to do that when I came into word. We just, you idiot, just beating them down. And you like, now, the people that have been in the word a little bit longer, they sit back and they look and be like, just like the adult that looks at another adult sitting there yelling at a baby for taking a toy and putting it in his mouth.
And brother, even there's times when, say you're mature in the word, you're like, you know what, I ain't acting in anger. I'm doing better in that regard. And people come at you funny. Sometimes you don't have the response. Sometimes you just don't know how to respond. You're like, dang, am I really just powerless in this moment right now? Like, I know this person is in sin, I just don't know what stuff to say. And even that in ourselves is a drawback, because it's like, hey, look, it's a reminder to you that you don't know it all and you still could learn more. So even in overcoming some of your own faults, you realize that there's still some ignorance in your understanding. And sometimes Yah will remove some of your understanding so that that person could get whatever is in their heart out, and it manifests, and they can say, all right, so now you know and confirm that you have this issue and it needs to be overcome. But even with us, if you've overcome certain hurdles in your life and you realize little stuff that, okay, I don't have responses or right response at this time, continue to meditate, and you can grow on certain things. You realize you're only becoming a better servant just for overcoming that first hurdle of the pride that is the beginning of sin.
Right. Verse 6 or verse 7. Actually, verse 8. Abstain from strife, and you shall diminish your sins. For a furious man will kindle strife. A sinful man disquiets friends and makes debate among them that be at peace.
All right, so a sinful man is going to destroy the peace that is residing with you. So if you're someone that has become comfortable with what peace feels like, you know what it is, you know how to maintain it, and you realize every time somebody comes around, the peace is leaving, you can easily identify where the problem is. But if you're someone that entertains destruction and disarray in your own heart, when other entities come in and add to it, you can't tell, because it all looks like disruption to you, because it's like, okay, I'm a disruptive person, and then when this person comes in, we're all disrupted. So you understand disruption and you're familiar with it. But once you start doing the things that, listen, I'm getting older, I need to understand what peace is. And once you tune into the sound and that frequency of where peace resides, when people come with a disruptive spirit, you can identify it. So then you can get time to meditate, and y'all can use you and say, as a solution, and say, all right, this person has a very disruptive, a very corruptive spirit that's not at peace. What can I do as an action, you know, in deliberately to like almost attack that chaos that this person introduces all the time, instead of just being passive and be like, oh, I don't know how to stop this. No, Yah is giving you a spirit of power. You can step in this situation, and if you understand waves, if there's a small wave, you can usually overpower small waves or greater waves. So if you understand peace, you can overcome certain bad frequencies with a better understanding of peace. Because when you know destruction, people don't understand destruction. It's a childish spirit. It really is. Right. But if you know peace, peace is a very mature, stable frequency, and it's able to just knock certain things out of the way. People come with their corruption. Either they're gonna have to leave you, or they're gonna just cease to exist right here, because your peace is so much more overwhelming than their disruption and their unstable wave and frequency.
Right. We are given the authority
that's
for
the
righteousness.
That's the word.
We always have the authority for righteousness,
but sometimes we just don't use it. Or we're ignorant of the power of it. If we apply these precepts we've been learning and actually humble ourselves to peaceful priesthood, or a priesthood of peace, because a peaceful priesthood
sounds like another class.
Yeah, a peaceful priesthood. It doesn't always work like that, because sometimes the priest got to get wild. but
pull out that sword, and that plague sometimes.
Chop Agag in pieces. But you want to be a priest of peace. So then now you can administer these things purposely, instead of, you know,
POP holding it down.
Priest of peace. All right, go ahead, brother.
Verse 10. As the matter of fire is, so it burns. And as a man's strength is, so is his wrath. And according to his riches, his anger rises. And stronger they are which contend, the more they will be inflamed.
All right, so sometimes a man's riches and how he feels and his confidence may fuel his ignorant rants, which is why you can't get a stop to Donald Trump, because he's been reinforced in the love of himself.
Right.
And even on lesser scales, sometimes people have an over importance of self, and when they feel wrong, they just do too much in proportion to how highly they feel of themselves. But if you're a warrior of peace, you can act and respond in a more humble manner to
Right.
disruptions.
And the last part of that, we got to understand that the stronger they are that which contend, the more they will be inflamed. And this is why when we contend with people in the word and we say, hey, look, but he that loves me keeps my commandments. They don't get angry and angry and angry. You got to expect that auto response for somebody that's stuck in their pride.
That's true. That's true.
Verse 11. And hasty contention kindle a fire, and a hasty fighting sheds blood.
That's not peace.
If you blow the spark, it shall burn. If you spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both these come out of your mouth.
So you have the authority, you have the power to affect on both sides. Choose you this day which one you serve.
Curse the whisperer and double-tongued, for such have destroyed many that were at peace. Backbiting tongue hath disquieted many, and driven them from nation to nation. Strong cities has it pulled down, and overthrown the houses of great men. A backbiting tongue has cast out virtuous women, and deprived them of their labors. Whoso hearkens unto it shall never find rest, and never dwell quietly.
All right, so part of establishing peace has a lot to do with your speech. Remember that. Keep that in your notes. Establishing peace has a lot to do with your speech.
The stroke of the whip make marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaks the bones. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not so many as fallen by the tongue. Well is he that is defended from it, and have not passed through the venom thereof, who have not drawn the yoke thereof, nor have been bound in their bands. For the yoke thereof is a yoke of iron, and the bands thereof are bands of brass.
All right, so the tongue and the speech is an indicator of the heart of man, and you have to defend yourself from speaking wrong things, speaking excessively scornfully, speaking ignorantly, speaking even too much at times, because with the excess of words, there's the want of sin. So it's easy to sin in the excess of speech. So keep guard over your speech, keep guard over your words, keep guard over your mouth, because a lot of your mouth is connected to what's going on in the heart.
Right.
And Yah is looking at your heart. And out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So keep the internals right. And you can address what's going on internally by filtering your speech.
Right. The death thereof is an evil death. The grave were better than it. It shall not have rule over them that fear Yah, neither shall they be burnt with the flame thereof. Such as forsake Yahweh shall fall into it, and it shall burn in them and not be quenched. It shall be sent upon them as a lion, and devour them as a leopard. Look that you hedge your possessions about with thorns, and bind up your silver and gold, and weigh your words in a balance, and make a door and a bar for your mouth. Beware you slide not by it, lest you fall before him that lies in wait.
All right, that will be the conclusion of this Warriors of Peace study. And mind you, it was extensive, but we only went over about four scriptures and had a wealth to say. And this was still only a window into how to establish peace. So in this lesson today, we should all realize that we have a lot more to go. There's a lot more growth to gain. There's tons of stuff to meditate on. And this is only 3 scriptures. We can always do our best to promote the peace in our lives and allow ourselves to be ascended even more in this Melchizedek priesthood, as we show Yah that we're worthy of his riches and being stewards over the goodness of his possession. If you have anything to add, Brother Yadon?
No, that's good, brother.
All right.
All right, let's go ahead and close with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. Brother Jonathan, can you go ahead and close us out in prayer after this great class?
Heavenly Father, Yah, we come before you, Yahweh, with these broken and contrite hearts. When we compare ourselves to that high calling that you have before us, O Yah, and see how inadequate we are and how much we fall short of the fullness of your glory, but we give thanks that you've given us Yahshua, O Yah, that you've given us access to your riches so that we can embody the principles of your spirit, oh Yahweh. And it was a pleasure for you to give us the keys to your kingdom. So Yahweh, we just pray that we continue to have the assistance of your Ruach, continue to have the assistance of the Ruach Kodesh, Yahweh, to continue to be fruitful servants and profitable servants, Yahweh. This is a high calling that we've stepped into. And we have to remember not to grow weary in well-doing, Yahweh, but just know that all we have to do is come to that well of living waters, and you will replenish us without upbraiding, oh Yah. Let us purge out those old iniquitous ways, Yahweh, and step fully into our calling, that higher calling of peace that will have us ascend into greater realms, oh Yahweh. We thank you and we bless you for this mercy that you bestowed upon us, and we pray that you continue to walk by us, that we may be profitable unto our families and friends, Yahweh. But as the scriptures say, a blessing unto all nations, Yahweh. May your word continually rest and be upon our lips. In the name of Yahshua HaMashiach we pray. Amen.
Amen.